In this episode of Kids Podcast, I get to share my wisdom with you about leading kids in your church and in your home. Because dealing with kids is work, hard work, and I want to give you the tools you need to champion the kids around you. You can learn more and support us at rongaleministries.com.
Welcome to my first podcast. Yep, that's right. Launching my first podcast. You might be able to find me on Instagram and Pinterest and YouTube and Zanga and MySpace and whatever else we have out there. But my first podcast called KIDZ, and this is going to be about those that lead kids, whether you are a kids pastor, coach, or a parent. Largely going to be from the perspective of ministry. Why? Because I am a kids pastor of over 20 years. I've been a soccer coach for over 20 years. I've been a parent for, well, it's like if you're at the age of your kids, you got to do the math here. 16 years. Yes, 16 years. A boy and a girl. I wear many hats, as you can see. Or of course, if you're not on a video, you cannot see my hats, but I wear many hats. And I've been thinking through, like, how can I invest in more people? Because I love investing in people, and that's what I do as a minister of the gospel, is I invest in people. And I want to invest in my leaders. I want to invest in the leaders in my area. I want to invest in the leaders of those doing kids ministry. I want to invest in leaders of homes, and I want to invest in the parents of my local church, as well as parents that are not a part of my local church, but just parents that have questions and issues and struggles. And I hope that any knowledge and wisdom that I've gained over the years from my parents, from my pastors, or my leaders, my books or my background, I hope that I can share with you, and that you can experience life to the full. So on my first podcast, I just want to answer a handful of questions that I've heard from many of you in the process of thinking through and figuring out how to launch a podcast. And so here are some of the questions, and I just want to walk through them with you so that you know what this podcast is about, what my heart is, and where we can go from here. Yeah. All right. So first question is, why start a podcast? Ron Gale, why are you starting a podcast? That's a very good question, by the way. Well, I love investing in people. Just love it. Whether it's young people, old people, the people around me, people above me, people below me. I love investing. And so whether I'm on TikTok, YouTube, face-to-face, or now on podcast, I hope that the wisdom that I share and the knowledge and the experiences I've gone through can help you succeed in life and in ministry and with kids. So yeah, that's why. And a large part of the podcast I will be doing will target two types of kids leaders, because they will all be kids leaders. That will be my niche, those leading kids. Yep. The first are leaders in kids ministry. And ministry can be translated into church ministry or non-church ministry, where you're administering knowledge and love and care, regardless of the content that you use. Yes, I'm a kids pastor, and I will use a lot of biblical values and truth that will be useful in your role. But ultimately, that would be the first type of person I want to invest in, is kids leaders in the church, in the world. The second are kids leaders at home, such as mom and dad or legal guardian. How do I lead my kids? So not just leading kids, but how to lead my kids as a parent. I have a lot of parents that are part of my home church, and honestly, this podcast was brainstormed out of the idea of is how do I reach and minister and help more of the parents at my home church, rather than just doing a kids service for their kids. And then secondly, as someone who works a lot in our local denomination and district, I experience a lot of questions, whether it's on Facebook or from phone calls or from emails, on how to deal with ministry situations. And that's why I'm starting a podcast that targets those that lead kids in the church and at home. Yes, sir. So boom, there it is. Next question is what will your podcast cover? Oh, very good. It's going to cover kids, KIDZ, for ministry leaders and for parents. I'm glad we are covering that one again, saying that again. But also kids leaders who are not parents, or maybe it's parents who are not kids leaders, or maybe you're just a coach. Maybe you're literally just a soccer coach. Maybe you're just someone who has a question and you typed it in and it pings some of the wording that we put in our descriptions and boom, here's an answer. If you were leading children, minors, age 0 to 18, this podcast is for you, and it will cover topics that you will deal with as a kids pastor in your kids church. It might even cover topics you as a coach outside of the church dealing with kids, like how do I keep this group of kids under control or direct them or lead them, regardless of the actual church. And and at home, leading kids at home. A large part of this podcast is leading children, leading kids in the church and at home. Yeah. And I want this podcast to be very raw, very, very organized, but not scripted. And not a lot of editing at the end. You know, I don't use profanity in my regular language. So when I get really, really mad, something might really, really come out. Because, we're all humans and we all make mistakes. And how do I deal with those mistakes when my kids are watching? Right? And I want to talk about those things. And so the next question is, what qualifies you, Pastor Ron, to do this? It's a very, very good question. Okay, so one, I am a family life pastor. I've worked with children from ages 0 through 18 for the last 20 years of my ministry career, and I love it. Yes, I went to Bible college specifically to study teenagers. At a moment, I was bivocational, and I got to work a lot with kids in the non-church world and learned a lot about kids. And there's this opportunity for me to become a kids pastor at my church, and I fell in love. And we'll learn more about that story some other time. But overall, by the time I became a kids pastor, after my education, after my degrees, after my experiences, I was like, wow, I really, really love kids ministry, and I love leading the family, and I just want to do better. So I would say that I'm qualified because I'm a kids pastor. I've been a coach outside of the church for the sport of soccer, for the sport of basketball and track and field. So leading kids outside of where you work is a different perspective for a lot of reasons, but I have that experience. I am a parent of 2 children, and I'm also a parent of 2 dogs. And that's a whole job in and of itself, and I love it. And I have a degree. Yes, actually 2 degrees. Well, maybe I don't really know. I have 2 plaques on my wall. Does it matter? So, and there are times that some would say that, like, oh, we don't care how much you know until we know how much you care. And that is definitely true. I've also learned that that particular statement is true when it comes to the type of relationship you have. And for some of you, I'm not even your pastor. I am not even your coach. I am nobody to you. So you're getting this content because you're looking for it. So you don't care how much I care. You actually want to know what I know. Now you know. I have experience and I have degrees. Woohoo! At the end of the day, I am not the renowned expert by any means. I'm always learning. I'm always looking. I'm always digesting. I'm always experiencing. I'm always asking questions. I can tell you what it's like to go through something and then find the answers. And if I don't know the answers, I'm happy to be like, here are the resources, which is a lot of what I do anyhow already, because I don't know all the answers. It's impossible for one person to know all the answers. Even at the highest levels, you're going to ask someone a question at some point and they're going to be like, you know who knows that answer better than me? It's A, B, and C. And that's good leadership. So you can ask me whatever question you want. We can talk about whatever topic you want. I'll tell you what I think. I'll tell you what I went through. I'm happy to share my knowledge and wisdom and experiences with you. If I don't know the answer, I'm going to call my dad. And if he doesn't know the answer, I'm going to call my other dad, father-in-law. And if you don't know the answer, I'll ask my boss, I'll ask my mentor, I'll ask somebody, I'll find a book, I'll find another podcast, and I'm going to be like, hey, here's what I learned about that. And I think you can glean from it, and you can be a better human because of it. And so, yes, lots of experience being a leader. So I hope that gives you confidence in me and this podcast. Yes. I think above all, regardless of how much I care and how much I know, I want you to succeed. Yes, I want you to succeed. I want you to succeed as a pastor, as a church leader, as a coach outside of the church, and as a parent. I want you to be successful leading kids in your journey. Yes, that's what I want for you. All right, last question I have here is what is success when it comes to leading kids? This is a good question. I liked this question when it was proposed to me. What I consider as success or successful. One, I don't want my kids to be dead. That would be a failure. And for this podcast, it's not just Bible. It's not just life. It's not just health. For this podcast, I guess my philosophy would be approaching it as we are raising young humans to grow up to become big humans. Small people becoming big people. And I just hope that when I'm done raising my small human, that they are healthy, contributing members to the kingdom of God. Yes, that's my philosophy, that this small human grows to be a big human, and they are healthy, contributing members to the kingdom of God, contributing members to our society, contributing members to our social networking, contributing members to our education, contributing members to anything and everything. Is how do I raise these little people to be healthy grown-ups one day? That's what I want for you. And so a lot of my approach to almost every topic when I'm sitting with my leaders, sitting with parents, is from that mindset that I'm leading young humans to one day become adults. And I always wonder if sometimes we look at these topics and we look at it the wrong way. We're like, oh, well, I gotta lead someone else's kid to understand this topic, or I gotta lead my child to behave. And how do I do this? And we don't back up and say, hey, this is really just a small human that's growing to become a big human one day. And so when a big human is misbehaving in the big world, how do we deal with that? And can that be contextualized in the church or at home? And I would argue that yes, small humans can be treated like big humans in its own context. And so all the topics that we're going to go through and all the episodes, it's from that perspective. Is that we're leading kids in the church and at home to one day grow up to be big humans. Yes, sir. So yes, I look forward to more podcasts with you, more episodes. And if you have questions, I guess ask away and we'll figure this out together. But until next time, everybody say, bye, Pastor Juan.
Thank you for letting me speak into your life. At the end of the day, our goal is to raise little humans to one day become big humans. Be sure to check out my website, rongaleministries.com, to show your support. And hey, thank you for listening. Be sure to smash that like button and all the things the kids are doing these days.